Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Apologize for the black screen there, folks. I was too slow on the draw getting everything going there while the intro was playing. I was too distracted by Charlie Arsenault's beautiful locks. That is who is here with us today as a guest. Charlie from Game Over Ottawa, here to celebrate the Senators' win, the Canadiens' loss, as the Senators shove it down the Canadiens' throats a little bit at the end there in a 5-2 loss for the Canadiens. Charlie, before we get too deep into it, how you feeling?
Overall, very good. I think anything would have been good. Both these teams were trying to get over a pretty brutal loss their last game. So I think anyone, and I think a win in any fashion would have been pretty nice for the Sens fan base, but this one especially felt pretty good.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, unfortunately, as Monsieur Paradis says in the chat, we will talk about the officiating because I don't know how you can not talk about it. They make themselves part of it, unfortunately. I'm not saying about like one way or the other. Charlie and I are both going to talk about it. I think we both have some beefs tonight about how the game was officiated. Both teams kind of in a rough stretch right now, although the Senators, I guess you could argue, had a pretty decent road trip overall. Then second segment, we're going to talk about the future between these two teams because unfortunately, they kind of have to run through each other. And I think both fan bases kind of hate that. And then we'll talk about the goaltending, again, both sides, because a lot of similarities between these two teams. Two teams in very similar states in their rebuilds as well. So lots to talk about as we get in deep. Normally at this point, I would run the ad for Inchu Bijou, but I am going to talk about it instead because our first segment of the show is, as always, brought to you by Inchu Bijou. Right now, there is a sale at inchubijou.com. Noel Noir, the Black Christmas here at Inchu Bijou. Now, you may not be a goth baddie. You may not be witchy, but maybe somebody you know is. And the holidays are coming up. And Christmas, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're celebrating, it's always tough to find gifts for folks. But the last thing that we should be doing right now is buying crap off Amazon. Support local artists. Go check out inchubijou.com. I bet you there's something there that's actually pretty affordable that you might like or a loved one might like. Check it out right now. And they also have their new Marche Maleficarum coming up on December 20th. So if you're in town here in Montreal, you can go check that out December 20th, right before the holidays. And Noel Noir, 20% off, I believe, site-wide. 15% off on gold, I think 20% off on sterling silver. So go check that out. They're awesome and they're run by amazing folks. All right, let's get deep into it here, Charlie. Let's start with the refs. Let's just get the anger out of the way, right? Like we'll get that out and then we can move past it and move on. So many things in this game were terrible from the reffing perspective. And I'll start it on like an even playing ground. So for example, the Shane Pinto call where he got called for retaliating, I believe against Lane Hudson. Right before that, Nick Suzuki lays a hit in the neutral zone. I forget who he got. Do you remember who he got? I think it was on Greg.
No.
I think it was on Ridley Gregg. Either way, it was a bit late. Could have called it interference. Then Lane Hudson hits Pinto and with a hip check. It's a clean hit, but again, it's a little late. The puck was gone. You could call that interference. Pinto comes around, gets the retaliation penalty. Now, is Pinto dumb for doing that? Yes. Is his frustration coming from a place of he just watched 2 interference calls and now he is legitimately upset? Also, yes. So I feel like whenever we're talking about these kinds of things, the same thing late in the game with Brendan Gallagher. He took a retaliation call. We do actually have to talk about what was uncalled first before we go after the players who retaliated. I feel like that's the biggest issue in not just hockey, but like society writ large, Charlie, is that we're all about punishing the retaliation, but we never address the root. We don't go after the why. And I remember it in like grade school, even, where the bully would do something, somebody would stand up to the bully, and the kid who stood up would get punished because, oh, there's zero tolerance for violence or fighting in school, but they never go after the root cause. This is my issue with NHL officiating. How does that hit you?
I mean, I can't imagine anyone disagreeing with that. You learn in Pee Wee that it's always the retaliation that gets called. So I think I have less of an issue with it if it's consistent. The issue, obviously, is that it never really is, especially consistent. But for the most part, I mean, like every single one of these guys has grown up knowing that that's how a game is going to be called. So to an extent, like I kind of just want to say like, hey, don't be an idiot and retaliate, but like they're gonna do it.
Yeah. Easy to say
Yeah.
when we're on the couch, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, obviously, yeah. Like that's my expert. Never played above, the most novice level of hockey in my life. Yeah. I mean, I think part of the issue. I don't know. But where do you think it stems from? Do you think it's an issue of that initial play being missed by the ref, or the ref just having no? And obviously we're broadly speaking here, the ref being all of them in one generalized kind of thing. Is it a matter more of like the ref having no patience for retaliation, or the ref more often than not maybe missing the initial uh the initial thing that happened that's causing the other player to get all pissed off and take a hack?
I don't think it's missing. I think it's that everyone knows that it's not missed, it's ignored. There's an allowance for a certain amount of cheating to be like an agitator, right? Like the NHL and NHL refs, by the way, absolutely adore Brad Marchand. They think he's hilarious. So they let him get away with things. They let him push things over the line, and then they will call the retaliation because it's like they see the failure or like the rule breaking as the reaction to the person who's like crossing the line. Like that's a bigger deal than the person crossing the line. But like structurally in sport, in life, not coming down on the initial problem and coming down on the reaction to it is like, I think, a continual problem that continues to get worse, and whether we're talking about hockey or in like politics, right? Where like just punish the actual behavior that is against the rules first, and then we can worry about the downstream effects of that later. But when you're letting the initial thing go and then punishing the reaction, I don't know, it kind of goes against like everything human, right? Like when somebody wrongs you, you are instinctually push back. Like, so standing up for yourself is now bad unless you stand up in a specific way, but that specific way can only be effective in very minute circumstances. Like you can fight somebody, but if you just drop the gloves all the time, every time you get like slashed the wrong way, you're going to be out of the league in a few days. Like it just, you can't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know, I thought it was weird. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this too, about tonight, but it definitely felt like obviously, some retaliation calls were made, but then there were like multiple times where I thought, there were a couple of moments where, and I mean, there were a couple of moments where both guys did go, but like they kind of put the whistles away a little bit for stretches of the game, but like
They
in
did.
weird patchy, like it was never like, oh, this period the whistles are it was just weird patchy moments throughout the game where they went, I don't feel like calling anything.
Yeah. And I think that's harder on the players too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the NHL right now as well. Like in terms of officiating, as you mentioned earlier, like as long as things are consistent, but even in a single game, there's no consistency anymore. Like what is a penalty it's not the same based on the first period to the third period. And I understand some level of like last minute of the game defending a lead, you kind of let the defending team get away with murder a little bit. Like I understand that the desperation time, like you better throw everything in the kitchen sink at the problem, but you can't have the highest level of professional sport and most of the players in the league have no idea what is and isn't a call game to game within a game. That's an issue.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And like, I don't know, there were a handful of plays where I mean, I couldn't believe some of the penalties and I couldn't believe some of the non-calls. There's like, I mean, obviously from a biased Ottawa perspective, that Amadio tripping call and then the, and I mean, I know like there's there's a narrative, but like I can't remember who it was who was going around the Ottawa net chasing after Stutzla, but like that would have been a weak call, but the Amadio call was like a little on the weak side. Sanderson got cross-checked from behind on the Suzuki goal. No call there. Just really weird. Like, listen, like call the soft stuff or don't.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where like usually I find over the time of watching hockey my whole life, like this is anecdotal, not statistical, but just having watched hockey my whole life, usually the way it works in officiating is if there is a infraction, even if it's minor, that causes a change in possession or causes a territorial advantage in a scoring position, they're going to call it. But those are the calls that they're constantly letting go now. Like you said, there's a cross check on the Suzuki goal. The Sens first goal, there's straight up a stick slash that changes possession that causes the entire thing. The Sens fifth goal that ices the game only happens because Brendan Gallagher's tripped behind the net right in front of the ref, super obvious. So like these are the exact kinds of calls that should be made in a functioning league. And it's like when these are the things that directly create goals, it no longer feels like the players are the ones controlling the outcome, even if, yes, they're the ones who have to put the puck into the net. But when so many goals are the result of non-calls, it's more a game of what you can get away with than being better at hockey, which is unfortunate because I think these two teams can play great games. But that's not what we got tonight.
I don't know. Is it too much of a bummer to say that every sports fan on the planet, regardless of what sport they watch, hates the reffing? Like, I think it's just something we're doomed to deal with because no league has figured it out. Somehow, no league on the planet, whether it's hockey or anything else, has figured it out.
They haven't. Although some sports are better than others. And I would argue that hockey's a sport that 20 years ago started moving in the right direction with adding another ref on the ice. And we saw the results of that post-lockout season and how much that improved the state of the game itself. Now I think they're in a position where the game has evolved too fast and the officials on the ice are now more often in the way and no longer calling things that are pretty obvious. So either there's a directive from the NHL that's harming the way the game is being called, or the structure that they have in the league is no longer capable of handling the officiating in the league. So they need to add something. I've been pushing for years for off-ice officials who are mic'd in with the on-ice officials and they can communicate. So they can say, you missed this, or like talk to this guy, get him to cut that crap because he's on like over the line behind the play constantly, like stuff like that, where there can be a communication thing. And I've heard some people say that, like the on-ice officials will have like too much of an ego to be dealt with from off-ice officials. I just have a hard time believing that, especially if you use the off-ice official situation as a way to train officials in the NHL. So you could have, say like your first year in the league, only 20% of the time you're actually on the ice. The rest you're off ice, getting training, being like the eyes in the sky. I feel like that it's a very smooth system, I think, for onboarding referees.
I like that a lot. And I don't know how likely we are to see more leagues give that a shot. Like I know with at least in baseball, like we're not going full robo umps starting next season, but they are implementing the strike ball call challenge. So we're starting to see a little bit more in baseball. I mean, baseball is like old man core, like baseball is so set in its tradition and its ways. I
Yep.
can't believe the pitch clock came in. Like it's a bad look when you're getting lapped by baseball. And I
Very
say
much
that
so.
as someone who loves baseball. And it's just a really, really bad look if as far as technology or reffing or just anything that helps you call an accurate game. Because baseball was so late to add any type of challenge at all. And it's insane that it's already lapping the NHL as far as, you know, going out of their way to make sure they're getting the right call consistently. And obviously, I mean, it's tougher. There's so many more factors in hockey than in baseball. Baseball is a very black and white. Here's a singular play. Here's what happens. You either get
Yeah,
it
everything's
right or you get it
isolated.
wrong. Yeah, hockey. There's a million things going on at once, and I get that. But all the more reason you need more eyes.
Yeah, like how many umpires are at a baseball game? I don't follow baseball enough.
You'll have home plate first, second, and third. But you've got um, I mean, it's kind of like in hockey, there's a challenge. The guys in Toronto are going to look at it. In baseball,
Right.
guys in New York are going to take a look at it. I don't know if it's the same in hockey though. I haven't really looked into it at all. But I know as far as baseball goes, every team has a dedicated video guy who's going to look at a play and make the call whether or not you make the you challenge a play, and you have that guy's got about 20 seconds to figure it out. I don't know if it's so much a dedicated person in an organization for hockey in the same way.
I
Obviously, they got hockey's starting to get the little bit of iPad time there on the bench that you can take a look at. But yeah, no, it really does feel like baseball is just fully lapping the NHL, and that's tough. That's
yeah,
a tough look.
especially when the NHL was moving forward relatively well. But I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's the case for a lot of stuff in the world, right? Is things were progressing and now they are not. Things are going
yeah.
backwards very rapidly. All right, we were gonna talk more about like the Habs and Sens in this game. We had like a theme a little bit in this segment. I didn't expect to talk this much about the refs, so I'll kind of just use that to segue into our next segment, which is I think both Charlie and I before we started the stream we agreed that this game was not exactly a case of one team being good or one team being bad, and more a case of the Habs were worse than the Sens, but the Sens weren't very good either. It's kind of two teams not playing their best, hitting each other at, I guess, like the wrong time for the Habs. I don't know. It was a weird one. But the future of these two teams is through each other because, frankly, they're at almost the exact same stage in their rebuilds. They are both pretty darn good overall. Like the team structure that they're building is going to be a playoff team for the foreseeable future. We've probably got a decade of these two teams constantly being at each other's throats. And while TSN tonight on the broadcast was saying that was exciting, my guess is that fan bases of both teams are not actually that excited about it. And we'll talk about that shortly here with Charlie. But first, we got to give you a little bit of a introduction to Le Saint Motel, one of our partners, and a place that you can visit when you go visit Inchu Bijou to take advantage of their sales. While you're browsing Inchu Bijou's goth shop, head next door and discover Montreal's most unique selfie studio. Whether you're looking to take some banger pics of your Halloween costume or cosplay, or you want to make some memories with friends, Le Saint Motel has you covered. Experience their bombastic decors that are always changing, hop in the ball pit, and take advantage of their extensive and flexible on-site lighting. Head to lesaintmotel.com to book your time in the studio, book private time where you and your friends will be the only ones allowed in, or book the space for an event. The dedicated, caring staff will make sure that you have a good time. I do have one warning for you before you book. If you have kids, they won't want to leave. Whether you're at Le Saint Motel or Inchu Bijou, tell them Game Over sent you. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. I am Andrew Berkshire. I'm here with Charlie Arsenault from Game Over Ottawa for this Habs loss to the Ottawa Senators. So during the broadcast on TSN, they were talking about how these two teams, once they meet in the playoffs, the rivalry is going to get even crazier. And Frankie Corrado said, yeah, you could say this rivalry started in preseason last year. And I was like, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, my friend. I think it goes all the way back to like the 2013 playoff series between them. And it just keeps on escalating from there. Every preseason seems to be some riotous crap. Somebody gets hurt or multiple somebodies get hurt. Suspensions don't seem to happen despite both teams taking liberties. And while I enjoy a good rivalry, I find, Charlie, that these two teams eat each other up and beat each other up in an extremely unsatisfying way for both fan bases. No team really seems to keep a long-term advantage over the other, which is good for a rivalry, I suppose. But I don't think most games between these two teams end with either fan base being particularly happy.
No, I think this is the only matchup where I have to like work up the nerve to look at the lineup, just because I know there's gonna be something about it I don't like. There's gonna be something about it that's not, that doesn't have winning in mind. Um, I mean, case in point. I mean, obviously, like the Habs have more injuries, so like you're gonna see uh multiple jack eyes, obviously. But like in the case of the Sens, you see like Curtis McDermott go in there, and it's like, all right, we don't need that really. Like as a fan base, I don't think we need to we need to deal with that. Um, it's really just against the Habs though. Like it's just something about, and like in the preseason, you see Habs, and I mean it's really just it's Belleville against Laval almost all the time.
Yep.
Especially in the preseason. No, neither one of these teams wants to risk injury to anyone of note. Um, and then it turns into the same. I don't know if you feel, but it always turns into the same like same conversation back and forth. Whether it's Habs fans looking at the lineup at home versus Sens fans looking at the lineup at home. If there's if there are two preseason games between these two teams and there's like a home and home type situation, everyone kind of knows how those lineups usually go.
Yep.
The Sens are coming to Montreal and they're too afraid to play their top guys. Oh, the Habs are going to Ottawa and they're too afraid to play their top guys. We figured it out by now. Like this isn't a talking point anymore.
No,
And I'm talking
it's
about
not
it
about
because
fear.
I'm fed up with hockey fans in general. But like, no, these two teams just it doesn't feel like it's not fair to say neither one of them feels like they're trying to win. But it does feel like both teams more often than not are trying to survive more than they are trying to win. And like if I take off my Sens fan goggles for a second, like that's just no fun for anybody watching these games.
Yeah. Yeah. The constant fear of like who's going to get hurt in this game over some stupid play is like, why do we need this? I feel like both teams need to be put in a corner, like put in timeout a little bit. Be like, can we just play a little bit more hockey and a little bit less of this nonsense? Now, I will say like both teams kept their gloves on at least in this one.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that kept the game from being dumb, because there was a lot of dumb stuff. I guess it didn't go too over the line, but there's always dumb stuff between these two teams. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Florian Xhekaj. I did have a quick note that I noticed about him tonight, because I haven't had as much chance to watch the Canadiens lately because they've been playing the late games, and my life's just been like upside down dealing with kids and all sorts of business stuff. But I thought his instincts for the most part are pretty good, but he's really tentative on plays with the puck. When he's just going in forechecking on a puck carrier, perfect. Like, no notes, Florian. But when he has the puck and he's making a play, his first instinct is usually a good one, but he hesitates slightly and runs out of space. And so I hope that a few more reps in the NHL, he can kind of realize that he actually is pretty good and trust himself. But that's what I saw from Florian tonight. I think he's got something there. And, man, him and Arbor together are a menace to deal with, especially if they're both effective players. But he's got to get some of that hesitation out of his game, which I guess is pretty normal for a rookie.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And again, if I'm doing my best to not be biased, seeing two brothers hit Brady Tkachuk together in the corner is pretty funny.
Super Bash Bros coded.
It's nuts. Yeah, it's straight out of a movie, is what it is, really.
It's really hilarious. Like I don't even know how. Like just looking at it from afar, even like other teams, they got to just shake their head a little bit, right? Because it's not like they're even the hugest guys. They're just two dudes who are solidly built and
Yeah.
willing to do crazy things. They both have that red mist when things don't go their way. Like they're just two nutcases that are super lovable.
Yeah, for one fan base.
For one fan base of 31 or 32. I don't know who I was trying to contract there saying.
Yeah, I was
31.
gonna
I
say
guess I was
let's decide on who isn't a team according to
thinking-
Andrew.
should we take a vote? Chat, tell us which
I
team
don't
would you
feel safe here
contract?
if we're doing that.
Which team in the NHL would you contract if you could contract one? I would love to see the results of this conversation. While I ask that, I'm going to just run through the chat quickly and say some hellos to folks. I see Claire's here, Trinka's here. Who else is here? Habstran from Oz, Natalie, Piano Matt is here, Alexandre Christian. Thanks for showing up after a pretty rough game to watch. And Moose Bud is here as well. Moose Bud mentions a lot of hesitation all through the lineup tonight. You're not wrong at all. And Trinka says, I would love a Team USA versus Canada, Tkachuk versus Jack. I feel like Canada loses that on talent, though. That's the problem. As satisfying as it would be.
There need to be something horribly wrong in Canada if those guys are going to be on a national team at that against the Tkachuks, I will say.
Yeah. Although, at the same time, if any star player were dumb enough to actually take on the my brother will fight that brother and this brother will fight that brother trade-off, it would probably be the two Tkachuks.
Yeah.
Taking themselves off for two Jack guys would be horrible, but I would see them doing it. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about goaltending quickly here. Transition to our third period. And while I do that, I got to tell you folks that we're doing something new and fun this year on Game Over. We partnered with a small company called Spark, and we're doing live trivia every Wednesday at noon. That means tomorrow I'm going to be live on the Game Over Network YouTube page, which you can find if you click Game Over Montreal, scroll to the bottom. All of our partner channels are listed there. At noon, the video's already up. You can save it so that you can get notified. You can sign up. There's a link there to sign up for the actual trivia to get notified when we go live. And you don't even have to load up YouTube when it happens. You can just get the thing, open it on your phone. Our stream will be there. You can mute me if you don't want to hear me talk and just do the trivia live. It'll show up on your phone. Winners get prizes and bragging rights. Our winner last week was Justin, who got a Vancouver Canucks or Vancouver Skater hoodie from our store as a reward. We'll see if Justin will keep his championship crown this year or this week, and or if somebody can dethrone him. But also, for the month of December, we're doing World Junior Hockey Championship trivia starting tomorrow. So 15 questions. It's probably going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. Do it during your lunch break at work or your break earlier in the day if you're out on the West Coast. It's fun, I promise. So hang out with me tomorrow at noon. All right, Charlie. Neither of these teams seem to be able to get a save. The Senators got a few tonight, but they were, let's say, more accidental than skillful a lot of the time from Allmark, who I think is like genuinely a pretty decent goaltender, just like I think Samuel Montembeault is genuinely a pretty decent goaltender. But neither of these teams have been able to get a save this year. What the heck is in the water?
I'm moving goalposts with this. It's been better. If you, again, this is a tough one. If you ignore the stinker against Dallas, so one game ago where Allmark stopped, I think it was 14 of 20. He allowed 6 goals. Removing that game in the last 7 or 8 games now, he's at a 9-14. So he's putting it together now. There's the odd stinker in there. He was brutal to start the season. Like before that mark, let's see here. Before that mark of the season, since Remembrance Day, with that 9-14 outside that stinker against Dallas. Yeah, he had an 863 leading up to that. So it is getting better. I don't love the fact that, it's basically him or nothing, because after having an incredible chunk of time with the Sens last season, Levi Merilainen has not looked good this year. Anton Forsberg is gone, obviously, and I guess the next guy up that you'd expect is Matt Sogard, but he's putting up an 869 in Belleville, so there's really no reinforcements here. They do have Hunter Shepard, who is a long-time Hershey Bears goaltender, won back-to-back championships with them, and put up really, really good numbers in the AHL most of the time. Last year was a weird 891, but a long tenured career AHL goalie who has not put up good numbers in the NHL, but you never know what happens with that. It really does feel like, let me just double check on Merilainen before I make anything up. In 7 games, 874. So it really does feel like it's all Mark or bust. And so the fact that he's starting to put it together a little bit now, definitely, it makes me a little less nervous. But the Sens really are one injury with Allmark away from possibly not even sniffing the playoffs, because they need Allmark at his best, because my bigger concern, honestly, outside of goaltending, is special teams. Allmark's helpful for sure, but like the PK is just abysmal. And so I'm not going to put, I honestly, like, I'm not putting either one of the goals on Allmark tonight. That first one, obviously, he was in rough shape after taking that shot. And the second one, I mean, well, also Sanderson completely lost his man on that first goal as well. But then the second one on the power play, Suzuki's power play goal, like, the PK is a nightmare. I am so sick of the diamond formation on the PK. It didn't work last year. It's even worse this year. My girlfriend better not expect a proposal anytime soon, because any diamond makes me want to throw up. I'm so sick of it. The power play sucks too. The power play, where are they at actually? Now that I'm thinking about it. Somehow, despite being like 1 for their last 15, the Sens are still 11th in the league in power play percentage.
They must
My
have had a really
God.
good run there for a stretch.
It started out hot, and it's just a nightmare now. So the only chance the Sens have at winning is keeping the game 5-on-5, which, to be fair, is a nice change after last season. The biggest issue with the Sens last year was their 5-on-5 scoring was non-existent. So it's a fun little evil twist that's going on right now. But yeah, honestly, if Allmark doesn't keep it going, this team's special teams are going to sink them. So all that to say, goaltending bad to start the season, but Allmark seems to be getting it together. But it's not enough for me to feel, especially there's nothing about this team, special teams or goaltending wise, is making me feel like they're a lock for the playoffs. And maybe that's because the division is just so tight from top to 6th, I guess. But like, man, there's no reinforcements in Ottawa for goaltending. Like, it's Allmark or bust. And at least with Montreal, I mean, obviously you got a pretty exciting prospect. That you guys can kind of hope will save the day, if nothing else will currently in the crease.
Yeah, I there's growing interest in the idea of Jacob Fowler coming up from the American Hockey League. He's just had a great game tonight, actually, against the Providence Bruins, where I think they won 4-1, despite him being like mauled and interfered with all game. So yeah, he's had a great start to the season. He's one heck of a goaltending prospect. Personally, I don't think the Canadiens themselves, like as like the management group, thinks that this season is so do or die to make the playoffs that they would rush Jacob Fowler. I think that's it's more important for him to stay like confident in developing than it is to save like a possible playoff run this year.
Well, I mean, that makes sense with a young core, right? Like,
yeah,
the Sens should feel the same way about the young core, but I feel like it just, for whatever reason, the Habs window feels longer.
it's because of the waves of development, right? It's like they've got
Yeah,
that older group with Caulfield, Suzuki. I guess you could even put like Caden Gooley in there. He's not really old,
sure,
but
yeah,
like it's like the mid to late 20s guys, and then you've got the younger kids like Demidov, even Reinbacher's not there yet, Jacob Fowler's not there yet. They just have this next wave coming that makes it feel
yeah,
like there's a lot more down the line. And I think they're pretty good at making bank on picks. So like this management group seems to be pretty confident in the fact they can continue building that cupboard even as the team gets better, which would be pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, at least they have Dobesh, who started the season absolutely on fire and then lost
yeah.
it for a bit and is also trying to claw his way back into it a little bit. Montembeau's had some good games, but mostly it seems like he hasn't been able to hold his confidence. But I do think that St. Louis has to wear a little bit of the current problem because throughout the last several years with Marty St. Louis, he's very rarely pulled goaltenders overall. Like Sam Montembeau throughout this rebuild has dealt with like some of the worst defense I've ever seen. And put up respectable numbers despite it. There have been many games where he'll give up a couple early, but by the end of the game, you feel like he's saved 4 goals more than expected because the Canadiens just get pilloried. And even if he starts slow, he kind of finds his groove and gets better as the game goes on. This game, it didn't like benefit them, but I think Marty St. Louis made the right call to not pull Montembeau because earlier in the season when Montembeau was really struggling and then Dobesh started struggling, it was like every game was the other goaltender and they were both getting pulled. And it seemed like that was more erratic and it was harder for them to adjust to. And neither goaltender got boosted by that situation. Like neither played better because they were coming in relief. They would come in relief and still be terrible, like still let in a couple of goals. So I think the patience approach works better for Marty, and I think it's better for the goaltenders as well. So even if this game wasn't a step forward for the goaltending, I think that it was a step forward in practice in how the goaltending is going to dig itself out, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
All right. We'll switch over
Yeah.
to overtime here in a second. But before we do, make sure that if you really like this stream, that you hit like on it. And also, if you really, really like it, hit subscribe because not everybody who watches is subscribed. And it does really help us out. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. It helps with everything. So smash like, smash subscribe. And we'll start our overtime period where we'll see if there's any questions from the chat. So if you have any, throw them in there. I don't think there's a lot of folks in here tonight because, frankly, that game was not great from a Montreal Canadiens perspective. And this is a Montreal Canadiens show. So, yeah, it was a rough one. So I'll ask you, Charlie. I'll ask you a question. How are you feeling about the Ottawa Senators defensive core going forward?
Man, I mean, if you're running through it, there aren't too many guys that I am, you know, if we're looking actually, it depends on how you want to frame it. Are we talking this season, or are we just talking outlook in general?
I'm talking like going forward as you're building a team. They want like a
Right.
competitive window because obviously you've got the cornerstones in Shabbat and Sanderson, and then you've got some good pieces as well. Do
Mhm.
you think they've got like the depth in the organization to go forward where they can kind of build in other areas, or do you think that's an area of need overall?
I think they definitely need to address some issues with the defense. I mean, I love Shabbat. Uh, it was a miracle that he stayed healthy last season. He only missed 2 games last year and had, I think, his second best offensive season, and looked phenomenal defensively at the same time. He's injured right now, and it's just kind of back to like, oh God, he's gonna miss like 20 games again, isn't he? Um, because so often with Shabbat is he doesn't have a big injury and then comes back. It's a lot of like he'll miss 2 3 games here and there, which makes it really really tough for the rest of the D core to really kind of figure it out. Like if because usually what happens is like last season he was playing a lot of time with Jensen, um, and Jensen just has not been good enough this season. I was surprised last year, to be honest with you. Like as good as Chikrin has been with Washington last year, I was like, I'm kind of fine with it because Jensen was such a great fit. Um, he has just not gotten back up to speed this season. I think they need to address that very, very badly before the trade deadline. Even though all the rumors with the Sens have been looking at top six forward, which is a whole other need, which is an issue. Lars Eller was on the first line against Dallas. Um, but defensively, yeah, I think like Sanderson, Shabbat when healthy, I am turning into a full-on like Clevin believer. I didn't think so. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't thrilled with him as a draft pick back in 2020. But like the playoffs last season, so far this year, I've been really, really impressed. Even tonight, I thought he was a bright spot for the Sens. I love Jordan Spence, even if Travis Green maybe isn't his biggest fan. I was afraid after they acquired Spence that he's just gonna be the new Brandstrom, like the new small defenseman that Green wouldn't play over Hamnick. Not that Hamnick's an issue this season, thank God. Mountain hasn't been terrible, but Mountain and Jensen are both areas that could be improved on, especially if we're not expecting Shabbat to be super, super healthy. I mean, I guess you can't expect any decor to stay healthy, but a genuine top 4D. That's the problem with this team is I think they are a genuine top 4D and a top 6 winger away from being a lock and consistently being a contender. And that's tough to do when you don't have much, you don't have any draft capital to play with because obviously, I think all Sens fans know this. I think most fans around the league know the current situation with the Sens and not having a first round pick this year. Thanks, Vegas.
Yep.
It's really tough to acquire a top 4 defenseman. It's even harder to do it when you don't have a first round pick. So I think they are at least one fairly major defensive piece away from, for me at least, being really, really confident in the group that they have. I'm confident they can make the playoffs and maybe win a round, but I think they're still a ways away from being a genuine threat.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel like if you're a Sens fan and people get on you for like having conspiracy brain about NHL refs, you have to really understand from a Sens fan perspective that over the last couple of years, the team got screwed over on the Vegas thing, and you can blame them, sure, on not disclosing, but let's be real here. Everything that Vegas touches, I am suspect. I am suspect of how it went down. They are so shady. And then the whole Shane Pinto thing, which like that suspension was like the detail around it. I want to know what actually went down because either the player did something wrong and he was punished for half a season randomly when the thing that was wrong is things that have ended players' careers.
Right.
Or the player did nothing wrong and was suspended for half a season for absolutely no reason, like no fault of their own. So like, I think that we deserve an answer on those things. And didn't the Sens also lose a pick for something else? For like there was something else too. Well, either way, they lost more in terms of like organizational value for that Dodonov situation than the Chicago Blackhawks did for 2 people being sexually assaulted and then hiding it and then giving the person who did it a good employee review so that they were then hired and sexually assaulted a minor and went to jail for it. Like the Chicago Blackhawks are responsible for that kid being assaulted. And they got a little slap on the wrist in Connor Bedard.
It's apples and oranges, but it still feels insane. Like, wasn't it the next day that they made more money back than the $2 million fine from season ticket sales?
It was within a couple hours.
Like it's just absolutely insane. And if I remember correctly, actually, during the sale process for the Sens, I believe Bettman, or at the very least someone from the NHL office, spoke to Andlauer, who was like, hey, so like, what's with this investigation going on? This is before any of us knew about it, obviously. This is like hey, here's the paperwork, you're going to buy the team, here's everything you got to know. And there's like these talks, this investigation going on, and the NHL's like, oh no, don't worry about that, that's all settled, like don't worry about it. And then he buys the team, and they're like, by the way, you're going to miss out on a first round pick now. Yeah, I don't know.
That sounds like a bait and switch to me. Like,
Yeah,
to do that in any business is a huge big deal. But like the NHL's business practices are garbage. And like, as we're talking about this, and like, as you said, definitely apples and oranges. However, it's just like, what should we care about?
yeah,
Yeah. And like,
absolutely.
meanwhile, Vegas, who the Senators got the shit end of the stick on that, Vegas is now starting Carter Hart. Like, that's happening today. His first availability, despite being dog shit in the American Hockey League, by the way. And like, even the idea of Vegas is trying to save money, so they sign somebody who might have like a checkered past, but they can save money on it. They didn't even save money. He's not even worth that contract. Carter Hart's NHL career is garbage. Like, he's not even good. Why did he get $2 million? That doesn't make any sense. He should be a league minimum player at most. From no perspective does it make sense.
No, it's insane. I don't know. Like, every fan base feels like, the league hates me.
Yep.
That's just a fact of life. That's just the way it is. Every fan base is going to say, "Oh, the refs hate my team. The league hates my team." It's just tough to look past some of these things going on with the Sens. And like, if the rest of the league going through punishments was similar, fine. It goes back to the reffing discussion. Just make it consistent across the board.
Yep.
No, it's like, and I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, the last time that what was the last time a first round pick was disqualified? Was it
Like,
Arizona?
a pick was taken away?
Or no,
I know
Arizona
lost a second round pick, didn't they?
So it would have been New Jersey
New
with
Jersey.
Kovalchuk, but
And they got it back.
Then they got it back. So,
which is completely insane.
Oh, fucking crazy. Like, so if because of that, I think because of that, there's a lot of false hope as Sens fans are going to go, oh, they're going to give it back, right? Like, it's going to happen.
They won't.
No, because you need to
Zero
give one of the
chance.
next 3 first-round picks. We're on that third one now. No matter what happens with the Sens, they don't have a first-round pick this season, which is terrifying because, number one, it's December, and I mean, granted, it's a tight division, but they're not currently in a playoff spot. Actually, I guess with these 2 points, maybe before the other games are done.
Yeah,
they
passed Montreal tonight.
Did they? Okay. Okay. Game in hand though for Montreal, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think Montreal might still have the better points percentage. I'll have to double check on that. But it's just like, man, this is too tight of a race. And it's like, all right, so then like, sell the farm? Like, who do the Sens have prospects wise? Like, Hensler, don't move him. You just drafted him. You don't have a first round pick. That's the thing too, right? They don't have a first round pick this year. 2021 is basically a write off with Tyler Boucher 10th overall. Like, you're looking at a team that doesn't have a first round pick this year, has a really weak prospect system right now. You can't trade your only prospects to go for it for 1 year and then, say you make the playoffs, great, and then things kind of fall apart later on. I don't think they're going to fall apart. I think this is a really good young core, but you never know. And I tend to kind of lean more conservative as far as like trading away prospects, which is probably pretty stupid to do because if you have an established NHLer and a prospect, chances are pretty good that best case scenario, your prospect is going to turn into that level of a player. Just more often than not, it happens. Don't look at Philip Forsberg and Martin Erat, I guess. But like the vast majority of the time, the Magic Beans don't become the actual established player that you're receiving. And yet, when the farm system is as weak as the Sens is right now, despite the young core, I just kind of want to hang on to them.
Yeah, I get it.
Especially looking at like Montreal's system, right? We were just talking about they have a whole new wave of players coming in to complement their already young core. that they're really the only issue in the division, I think. I mean, every other team in the division is getting older and worse, probably. Buffalo's just kind of stuck, but like the other teams are getting older and worse.
It's very true.
I
It's funny
really
you
want the
mentioned
Sens to
Tyler
be like, we
Boucher.
could go for second in the division every year. That sounds good. So I don't know.
I mean, you mentioned Tyler Boucher. Like, how different would the Sens look right now if they had taken just the next guy available, Cole Sillinger? You know, who's not a
Yeah,
crazy good player, but he's like a 1 point every 3 games or more player,
and
a
NHL
regular
play.
NHLer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, man, imagine if they got Wyatt Johnson,
Oh
who
my
went
God,
a little
that's
bit
the
later to
worst
Dallas.
too. That is the worst. Like
That dude already has over 100 NHL goals. He was drafted in 2021.
that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Great
But like
point.
the only cope I have is that the Sens need up front, right? So like as far as like replace Boucher with like a third liner, like it's helpful. And like that's a third, maybe they bump a third line up to the second line, that's helpful. But like depth wise, I love where the Sens are at. Depth
Mm-hmm.
wise, for the most part. It's just they're lacking the offensive power up front, whether it's on the back end or uh like Lars Eller on the first line is still very funny, but it's a real thing that happened with like no God. That's after Brady Kachuk came back. If this is during the Kachuk injury, fine, okay, whatever. Um, but no, I mean Zetterlund's starting to put it together. 4 goals in his last 6 games, but it's just that second line of you have like Batherson, Cousins, and somebody. David
Yeah.
Perron, Greg, whatever. I think Stutzla, Cousins, where are we going from here? I guess Pinto, like 1, 2, 3 center, phenomenal. I love that. It's just an issue of you need that upfront firepower. You need to finish off that top six with an actual top six winger, and you have nothing to move.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
tough spot.
100%. Always fun. All right, we're gonna end it there because it's always fun, but it's getting late, and kids don't care when I stay up late. They still wake up at 6:45 every morning, so gotta get them to school. Thanks for joining me tonight, Charlie, and thanks for joining us in the chat. All the folks who were there with us. I know it was not a fun game for the Montreal Canadiens, but they'll be back at it tomorrow night. And if you really have some time tomorrow during the afternoon, noon Eastern time, join me for trivia on the Game Over Network. We'll see you then.